the why might not matter. What you might get way more interested in when you notice yourself tail spinning in the shadow like that and analyzing it, and because you're just going to get a lot more vrittis, you're just going to get a lot of chatter, and you know all that chatter. It's all familiar. It's all replay, I would say, or whatever 98% of it is. So instead, I would go to like, who would I be if I was the person who could do that? Hey, it's Kate Stillman with Wellness Pro Academy, and I'm here with Veda Dave of VedaDave.com, otherwise known as Dave McConaughey. Did I say it right?
Yeah, McConaughey. You got it. Hey, Kate.
So I wanted to record with you because I had, sometimes when I have the same exact like issue with someone I care about in the same month, I'm like, okay, this is a collective thing. It's not so personal. An individual, which is both helpful for the person with the issue that seems so personal and individual, but it's also helpful for the collective because there's other people out there. So what I wanted, what the issue was that came up, and it was two different people leading events that were in the healing events, both of which were basically volunteering like all their time, energy, love, and passion, and neither really had their upsell prepared, even though like they were responsible for like literally, like if they didn't do it, all these people wouldn't be gathering, all the logistics wouldn't have been taken care of. And these people need, to eat and pay their mortgage and, essentially run an effective company. And so what I saw was like, oh, this is an issue, because a lot of us are called to really bring people together, which means leading an experience or leading an event or bringing together different communities under the same roof to have an experience, a collective experience together, like you're doing with Kularama, the Ayurvedic conference, the trauma-informed Ayurvedic conference that's happening in Golden, Colorado at the end of September, early October. So I wanted to make sure that you get what you need, that you get what you actually need as an individual business owner out of the event. And that kind of brings us, I think, the audience a little bit up to speed into where we're at. And I guess Duca has something he wants to say about it. Wait, I'll tell you why Duca's here right now, actually, sticking his butthole in my
the
face.
The highest compliment.
Which he doesn't always do, but Duca really is the shadow. He's named Duca, which means suffering and Vedic, not because we wanted to torture the cat, but because he came with this shadow. He's an orange tabby, but he's got all this gray mixed in. And so he looks like he came out of a chimney. And so we used to call him Dirty Boy when we first got him. I'm like, I think we have to name him Duca, even though no one's going to understand why we're naming the cat Suffering. But it really brings up that there's a shadow in self-promotion, especially when our desire to bring an event to the table is that really coming from the highest, in the sense of like it's a non-salesy thing and it's a non-self-promotional thing and all that. But then there's like the reality on the flip side of like, if you don't make money in your own business, then you can't volunteer all your time to this Colorado Ayurveda conference. So I just want to be really present that what we'll do in this is like find sort of where the shadow is and maybe a bit where the light is, and how everyone's needs can get met at a much higher order. And you can make whatever pitch you need to make.
Yeah. And I really appreciate you naming that, because in reflecting on this issue, I've spent 7 of the last 14 years living or studying full-time in ashram environments where karma yoga is the law of the land. And you just serve and serve and serve without any expectation of a thank you or money. And this spirit of service feels so powerful and has empowered me to do things beyond myself, beyond what I perceived my innate capacity to be, and has led me into these realms where, we're putting on the 3rd Colorado Ayurveda conference and connecting all these people and people I admire and bring them together for these fantastic conversations and being of benefit. And in my heart of hearts, like, isn't that just enough? shouldn't just making a beautiful thing be enough, and the rest will just work itself out, right? And the shadow part of that is that there's an avoidant piece of that, where like, yeah, the self-promotion piece, like it just puts that all aside. Like, I don't have to worry about myself. I can just focus on the collective, and there's definitely an avoidant piece. And so I've been on the board of Colorama for the last 7 years, and I remember at some point early on, I took over writing the newsletter, and I looked at the history of newsletters, and it was all very, just like, here's an event, it's very dry. And it wasn't really, it didn't feel connecting. And the whole point is the Ayurveda community is small and intimate. We're a small local nonprofit organization. Why aren't we personally connecting with each and every one of our members? Mm-hmm. And so when I took over, I was like, cool, like, I want people to know this is coming from a human. And so I put my own flavor into it. I put my little photo and name at the end of it. So like, hey, thinking also like, yeah, and I'm who I am. If people like what I'm up to, they'll check in with me as well. And I got a little bit like slacked down. Like, this is not for your personal promotion. This is not, this nonprofit is for the community, not for you to promote yourself in any way, shape, or form. And so I wasn't even graduated as a practitioner at that point. And so I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, very like humbled and right. Karma yoga, just service, no self-promotion whatsoever. And that's how I've been doing it ever since. And I'm getting to the point where exactly what you said, like, my business is falling to the wayside, and I'm having to really struggle to make my ends meet, because all this energy is going into this service, which I love, and I wish I could do it full time, but it's an all volunteer nonprofit that's also struggling to make its ends meet. And so this is where the root of this conversation comes from, is sort of breaking through that shadow of the nobility of poverty. Like, there's some shadow in there about, like, if I'm doing service work, I shouldn't get paid, or it's better to be bootstrapping it somehow. And like, intellectually, I know that's nonsense, but there's some operating system that's still running the show.
Okay. So it sounds like, I mean, there's a lot in there. It doesn't sound like just to your point, like, it's in the collective, it's within the collective within this organization, that there's clearly not an understanding of like sustainability and the money involved for the people involved, and et cetera, and how to do that. So the problem there is like, you can't, I just think of certain relationships. It's like, I kind of know what people I can go to for what. Right. And what people like, there's just no way, because they don't have that capacity, or they're just not there, the understanding, the availability, the that. And so there might be a bit of that. So it also sounds like within this structure, one of the first things to get clear is like, what are the rules where, in exchange for some of your service, that you can, whatever it is, make an announcement and put a flyer in the kit, get yourself on stage, speaking on your own expertise to like any speaker at any event usually has some way for people to follow up with them afterwards and makes a little bit of a pitch. What are the parameters there as far as Yeah.
And that's a tricky one, so like, I've thought about this, like, as a professional member of Colorama, we invite our professional members to, hey, send us something to put in the newsletter. You've got an event, you've got a course, you've got, like, we want to promote our members. But because I've been on the board, I've not somehow felt disqualified, or like, I've never even done that for myself. And there's some mix up there where I'm not even taking advantage of the thing that I'm going out of my way to provide and create for others. And it's like, I can trace this back to elementary school, where I would spend all my time helping my friends learn the math and get their homework done. And then the hour that we had to do it is gone, and all their stuff is done and correct, and my paper is empty. And so like all through school, I struggled. I was a tutor in the writing center and helping other people turn in their papers, but my paper was always a week late. And so this is a deep psychological thing for me and even at the ashram where I was mostly working in the kitchen. And the rule is, I mean, the chef eats last, because if we didn't make enough food for all 100 people, I'm the one who's not going to get to eat because like I'm the one who didn't make enough food. And this seems like I have a story that there's something righteous and correct in that flow of distribution of resources. And I'm like kind of starving over here.
Yeah. So there's a victim mentality there too, right? Like there's so what do you get out of that? Like what's still serving you there that you're still perpetuating the pattern?
Yeah, there's something like a story about being a good person. Something about nobility or righteousness, a little bit of self-righteousness, about like the self-sacrificing aspect of it is somehow serving. And there's like there's something safe in it where there's always an excuse for why I didn't, make the money or succeed in my own right. It's like, well, I was busy helping other people succeed. And so it like lets me off the hook and doesn't actually force me to face some of the other reasons why I might not be succeeding in terms of attention to detail or, distraction or whatever else it is.
And so what do you really want now?
What I'm coming up against is that the martyrdom, that way of being of service isn't actually of service. It's actually a way of helping that isn't very helpful. And so there's this next level of process and of being that includes myself in the success, and by sort of exiling myself from the success or the boons that I'm trying to create for everybody, by not including myself in everybody, it actually screws everybody up. And I have trouble delegating tasks. I'm learning a lot about leadership, and yeah, it's there's this thing about not being special. Just because I'm in the leadership role, that doesn't actually make me special. I'm still part of the team, part of everybody. And just like I want, I'm going out of my way to make sure we pay all of our vendors or all of the I'm going out of my way to share the resources with other people who are bringing their gifts, and somehow excluding myself from that. And that I can sense how that actually is depleting to the whole mission.
Yeah, because it's unsustainable, right?
Yeah.
Does it kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth in a way, like where you feel hamstrung and doing what you need to do for you?
Yeah, and it ultimately leads to resentment.
Yeah.
And this projected resentment. Oh, these people don't appreciate me for all that I'm doing, when it's actually a lack of self-appreciation, a lack of self-acceptance, and it's a form of self-abandonment. Is just like sort of setting myself aside and only tuning into what everybody else around me needs, and how convenient to not have to advocate for myself.
And is that like also just a super early childhood pattern or family dynamic?
Oh yeah.
So it's a survival mechanism, essentially.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
What comes to
And
mind when I ask that? Like what? Like
yeah,
if
I
you
mean,
were to
it's,
uproot it like once and for all, like what's the root of it? Like I harvest thistle, and thistle's such a sneaky one because like you think you got the root of a thistle, but there's no like it's like burdock. It's like good luck. But if we were to be like you can get to the root of it, like what is the
yeah, it's deep family dynamics, and uh, um, without going too far into my own psychoanalysis, we moved a lot when I was young, and it was, dad was working, mom with me and my brother in foreign countries,
hmm,
and as capable and amazing as she is, she struggled, and it was, we were her little soldiers, and I was, especially as the youngest child, hyper attuned to her moods, her needs,
yeah,
and very careful to track, is it okay for me to have a problem right now,
mm,
or do I need to deal with this on my own because she's
mm,
already stressed to the
okay,
limit? And some of the unpredictability of, sometimes it's okay for me to have an issue and have a need. Sometimes if I have a need, it's actually not okay. And so the sort of hyper autonomy, it's like hyper attunement to
yeah,
others' needs and moods. And in response, they're like, well, I'd better learn how to deal with this on my own because other people are unpredictable and
yeah,
fundamentally unreliable. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially in an all-volunteer organization.
yeah,
It's really easy to be like, well, the volunteers, we have amazing volunteers. They show up in so many beautiful ways. And there's always a certain percentage of attrition. And I said I
yeah,
was going to do this, but it's just volunteer work and I'm not
yeah,
actually going to do it. And so it's hard to be like the one left holding the pole. It's like,
right,
all right, well, ultimately it's my responsibility and I only trust myself to do it.
right, yeah, and that's the so if you were to parent the part of you right now that's like okay. I need I have needs and I have desires.
Yeah.
How do you parent? Like, what do you in this? You have this context coming, like all these people coming. There's an opportunity, which is why we're on like right now, is because like there's an opportunity, and it's not that there's not going to be other opportunities. There's always opportunities, but we're on the before side of an opportunity,
Yeah.
right? And so, what is the part of you that's been like you said, educated in the last decade, like really gone deep into wholeness, like how does that part parent the part that's sort of autonomous and keeping their own needs small?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the first thing is just a measure of acceptance and like acknowledgement of the validity of the needs and the understanding that, yeah, of course you get to be human too. you
Hmm.
we all have needs and wants, and it's okay, and sometimes those needs get met and sometimes they don't, and that's also okay. But a need or a want going unmet doesn't invalidate the need in the first place. And so to just let it be okay, the acknowledgement of the okayness of having needs is the starting place. And so let me just feel that for a second.
Yeah.
It it brings tears to my eyes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
What about the possibility of the needs and wants being met? Like, what if the universe wants that for you? Or what if the people at the conference want that for you? Or even the people on the board? Like, what if everyone wants that for you, including me?
yeah.
And what do you really want? And what do you really need from this event? As Veda Dave, not as like saintly volunteer Dave.
Yeah, there's a sense of celebration that I long for, and yeah, longing for appreciation, acknowledgement, and celebration. Like very quickly, like it doesn't take much. I don't need to like luxuriate. I don't need a like 10-minute standing ovation. That I don't like. That's not it. But this sort of shared sense of like, isn't this amazing? And to it's actually a sense of inclusion, because what that martyrdom thing does is it sets me apart, and it's both like this weird dual thing of excluding myself from the thing that I'm trying to create, which is specifically about inclusion and welcoming and getting everybody together, but then somehow setting myself apart from it. And that being both this weird egomaniacal, like, I am the one who created this, but also like, I also don't really actually feel a part of it, which is maybe it's a subconscious drive to like, let me throw a party so everybody will come, and I'll get to hang out with everybody. And so yeah, there's a longing for inclusion, basically.
Yeah. Awesome.
Be a part of rather than apart from.
Is there anyone specifically that you want recognition for, or any groups?
It's interesting. What's
Like just what pops into mind, if no filters, like
yeah,
really.
it's interesting. What's coming to mind is when I first set out on my professional path, and I like built my first website, and all the copy, all the things on the website were written to impress my teachers. It was all so that when my teachers looked to see what I was doing, they would be impressed and proud that, okay, yes, this is my student. He's learned what I've taught. And it took a couple of years actually to shift that, because I wanted the approval of my teachers to like the validation of, yes, you're okay to step out in the world and be offering these services that you've been studying with me. And it's taken years and a lot of your help in recent years to shift it, like writing it for the people, for the people who haven't been through a decade of Vedic training, and the people who actually have issues that I can help them with and communicate it, meet them where they are. And so like ultimately at this point, the group that I want like recognition from is like it's the world. It really is on that scale, is getting to this recognition from actually it's strangely the grandiosity of what I'm about to say is actually not the egomaniacal part that wants to be so seen as special. It's actually coming from this deep recognition that what I'm aware of and what I've been cultivating, if a huge percentage of the world population would adopt and understand some of these things, the world would be a vastly better place. And so what I really want is like the whole populace to understand some of these Vedic principles, some of these cosmic truths of how nature operates and how we are a part of it. And if we all just understood a little portion of that, we would live together in greater peace and harmony and connection with nature, and war would stop and famine would end, and all these things. Like that's the grandiosity of the understanding of what I and we are working with. And anything less than that is going to be disappointing.
So if you go to your specific needs, like from this conference and right now, so we're hearing the need for recognition, we're hearing the need for this the larger, a larger impact, really, like this sense of global impact. If we just drive down now into, like, there's an event, it's a month away, there's some parameters you need to work out with the board, yada yada, but if we even like set that aside for now, and just say, like, what do you actually need specifically out of this event besides recognition, and besides, like, is it in terms of what is actually going to translate into money, like what's actually going to translate into customers or clients, like what do you need and what do you want? Because if we understand the difference between those needs and those wants, then what is it, the universe gives you what you need often, before you get what you want. So what are your more immediate needs in terms of like solving the money problem in a very non-grandiose way, in a very just like linear, pay the bills?
Yeah.
Like, how many leads do you need from the conference? Like, if you just looked at like calendar appointments booked.
Yeah. So there's sort of two answers to that. One, on the side of Colorama, as the incoming president starting in 2024, I want Colorama to be a healthy organization. And so we've, putting on an event is a risk. And so right now, in the next 5 weeks, I would love to see 100 more people sign up to come in person and online. And so that we come out of this event in the black with a strong budget for 2024, so that we can as an organization can continue to do the things and be of service and protect and promote Ayurveda. And so that's a core need on that level. And as I've been on the board for 7 years, I'm the incoming president, like that's a really strong thing to keep this organization that I'm sort of inheriting going strong. That's a really powerful thing. And then flowing from that, I will be the MC of the event. And so if there are ideally, hundreds of people in attendance and who get a lot out of it, and that's that celebratory thing. Like, it's hard to have a party. You can get the catering and the lights all strung up and the music and the DJ ready, but if nobody comes to the party, there's no celebration. And so that's that first like celebratory thing. Isn't this amazing? We can come together and learn and connect. And then out of that, hopefully my presence and participation in the event will be inspiring to others, and people will want to connect with me and want to sign up and learn more about what I have to offer, and which is, one-on-one consultations and a club focused on nature-based mental health using Ayurveda, astrology, and internal family systems.
And are you doing any presenting at the conference?
No.
Or just MC?
No, I'm just the MC. I presented last year on my doctoral thesis, which is about internal family solar systems, the merging of the IFS approach to psychotherapy and Vedic astrology. And so that's this ongoing work. That's the basis of my club. And so this year I'm just emceeing, just facilitating. Yeah.
Okay. So when you look at that and you look at like how would people then be able to know what you do and connect with you?
Yeah.
And you might even say, like, what would Tony Robbins do if he was in? I think Tony Robbins has 400 companies that are all bear his name, right? Like he doesn't have an issue with promoting himself. And if you don't want to use him, you could use someone else, like whoever you like. What would so and so do? How would so and
it's so like I immediately get tense about not wanting to so I think like, okay, like I'll introduce myself, on Friday night when we start the event, on Saturday morning when the full conference starts, like I'll introduce myself and say, hey, I'm Dave, blah, blah, blah. And so I could totally throw something in just as part of a very natural introduction so that people know who I am and why I'm the one with the microphone. It's funny, like I'm not presenting, but as the MC, I will probably say more words into the microphone than anybody else all weekend.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely the opportunity to introduce myself and talk about who I am and why I'm the one holding the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And very quickly I get really like uptight about not wanting to make it about me, not wanting to oppress the audience with my sales pitch. And it's all about these wonderful speakers who we brought in and the sponsors who made the event happen, and just immediately setting myself aside and just sort of presuming that the audience isn't there to hear me talk. They're not there to hear my thing. They don't care about that. They came for the conference and for the speakers. And so, yeah, it's really interesting to watch how quickly I dismiss and abandon myself in that.
Yeah. So where I go to is plussing, as a structure. It's like, it's a bit of a yes and structure where it's like, yes, they're here for the speakers, and yes, there's a reason that you're emceeing, and yes, there's a reason you chose your board and you chose for this to be trauma informed, and yes, and you have a lot of background in that, yes, and the family systems, yes, and right. And there's a bit of like, what does it look like if you just go to the hyperbole, right? It's like, what does it look like when it's a gift to the audience that they know who you are and why you're the one with the MC and how to follow up with you? Like, what does that look like on the, because I feel like your tendency is to go is to get stuck in shadow, and just like the analytical part of your brilliant mind can get kind of lost in the underworld there, where it's like you understand the pattern, I think, enough to start to really explore the opportunity of like, how is this a yes and? Like, how say you are given, say I'm saying, Dave, put this crown on. I'm giving you the responsibility of like modeling the way, not just for you as volunteer MC of a large health-driven community event, right? But like to do it for all of the volunteer MCs, like, show us the way, Dave, like, show us the way, how it's a yes and, like, yes, and I'll let you get to know me and my story and my offering as part of this, and I'll give you a way of connecting with me after if you also have an interest in exploring family trauma, right? Or whatever are the code words that you're sending your long tail keywords out to the audience for, and giving them a direct way for them to connect with you at the conference, and being available to them maybe between the sessions or whatnot, so that you can actually leave with a list of like 10 to 20 prospects who are a great fit for your club. Mm-hmm. And how does that even feel? Like, just that idea of like, imagine yourself, the thing's over, right? And you've got like 20 good prospects on your calendar. Like, how does that feel inside?
Yeah, it feels really good and appropriate. I feel the appropriateness of that, because my offering is specifically for other wellness professionals who want to go deeper into these understandings in order to better serve their clients. That's what I've found is those are my people, and that's who Great. This event is targeted at: therapists and counselors and coaches and Ayurvedic professionals, and sort of welcome them in, share with them this beautiful weekend, and sort of as the MC, I sort of get to be, it actually, my role is, as I see it, sort of first among equals, where like after each and before and after each session, I'm going to gather and be like, wasn't that amazing? Or like, oh my God, you guys, like, look at who's going to talk next, and sort of being the sort of number one cheerleader and getting to sort of be the voice of the audience as we move through the event.
And is there someone you need to do that for you?
Yeah, that's actually what came up a minute ago, is actually to have somebody else at some point take the microphone and do that for me.
Good. And who should that person be? Who do you want that person to be?
Yeah, I have to think about that. A couple people one or two people in particular come to mind.
Okay. And can you write the script for them and then ask them to improvise off of it?
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I can do that. Why does that feel like such an edge? Maybe
it doesn't matter. Like maybe that's
right.
The part where you go analytic, and it might not matter. The why might not matter. What you might get way more interested in when you notice yourself tail spinning in the shadow like that, and analyzing it, and because you're just going to get a lot more vritties, you're just going to get a lot of chatter, and all that chatter. It's all familiar. It's all replay, I would say, or whatever 98% of it is. So instead, I would go to like, who would I be if I was the person who could do that? Like, and again, you're modeling the way for other MCs who are, donating a third of their working hours in a year, if not more, to making an event happen. And you're showing them how to do that sustainably. Maybe even how to do that in a way that is rewarding.
Generative. Yeah.
Generative.
Beyond sustainable, but generative.
So then what else? Like, what do you need to put in the bags of everyone? Like, what do you need to put in as a member of Colorama?
Yeah.
Like, what do you need to get printed? Like, what would be fun to receive as the attendee where it's like the most perfect fit for them? Like, how do you make that so fun that you can't wait for the people to pull that out? Like, for example, I'm printing these, I can see if I can pull it up. I'm printing these dung ho stickers. So I'm like totally into like cowpathy and that's just fun. And I just like last year at NAMA, I printed the how to upcycle your pee postcards.
Yeah.
Mostly just to like see what people would, just to get the reaction, like just to like whatever. But with you, I'd be much more targeted towards those strategy sessions.
Yeah.
Like, but doing it in a way that just feels so good that like you can't wait for someone to get your postcard, and you can't wait for those people who get that to find you at the event and connect with you. And like, what do you want them to ask you when they connect with you? Because you can reverse engineer all of this. And this is what I want to drive home to anyone who finds himself in the situation where Dave is like, you are already reverse engineering whatever experience you're having. And so if it's for feeling underappreciated and feeling that it's unsustainable and that you're a martyr and all that, like you've reverse engineered that. So great. You want a different result, reverse engineer the result that you do want. So if you want 30 people at the event to come up with you and say a certain thing to you, reverse engineer that experience so that they will do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you want someone to say something about you, right, the other person who grabs the mic and introduces you or makes a plug for you halfway, and that, like, you can write that script, you can reverse engineer that, and then ask them to riff off it, or ask them to, they can use it or they can say whatever they want to say. But maybe the call to action's the same. Like maybe you're asking them to do a really specific call to action. And then maybe what you need to do between now and the next 2 days while this is really hot on your mind is like meet up with your accountability partners, ask them for help. Say, hey, Kate wants me to like reverse engineer this so that I leave here with 20 prospects scheduled on my calendar. We need to reverse engineer opportunities to make this happen. Like, let's just brainstorm. Let's yes and. What would Oprah do? What would Tony Robbins do? What would so-and-so do? What would Deepak do? Like Deepak would do an infomercial before, I mean, if it was 1987. But like go, like really push the boundaries of your creativity and imagination so that you can continue to serve Colorama or whatever organizations you're called to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate that. And even just tuning into, the vibe and some of the vocabulary, because like when I'm in that tailspin, it all gets so serious. And it's very everything's very important, and the service of Ayurveda as a vidya is like such a like pressurized thing. Whereas like actually, what it's like to like as an MC, like I'm like goofy and making jokes and making it light and fun and celebratory. And that's the vibe of my club. And, we're talking about these very intense things, but in this lighthearted, creative, playful way. And for some reason, and so like just to be cultivating that and leading into that vibe is maybe one of these missing pieces. So instead of when I think about writing a script for somebody else to say something nice about me and it being this like very grave thing, it's like, oh no, it's fun and playful and part of it and just part of the whole experience. And maybe getting to know me better is delightful for everybody there.
Yeah.
What a thought.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, this is your work.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is your spiritual path. It's not something else. It's like, this is it. Like this is, here, I'll show you the stickers. Yeah. They're in design. They're not done. This was like me spending 10 minutes on Canva. So say I wanted people to ask me what this is about.
Yeah.
Right? So this could be a postcard. This could be on one side. And on the back, it's like, hey, come find me. It could have a picture of my face and say like, ask me what this is about. Hashtag primal habits. Hashtag microbiome diet. Hashtag cowpathy or hashtag sacred cow and microbiome diet. Something that like is going to get the people who are actually like, or it could have my name on it too. Right. And so just that, like I'm telling people what to ask me about to start that conversation. So when you do that and you're like, okay, now it's like, to me, it goes to ideation, and ideation volume's key. It's why Seth Godin writes a blog post every single day because he doesn't know which ones are going to be good. And it's why James Altucher writes down 10 ideas for the postcard, 10 ideas for what the MC should say. And that's where all that energy that right now is just getting in a negative tailspin. There's a lot of good energy in there. You just like plug it into ideation, pass it to a few of your friends and be like, which one's the best one? Like, which one would get you to come talk to me? Which one is going to actually pull the right target client to me? Right. And then you start doing that. Anything that you have an ethics thing about, you go to the board and say like, hey, I'm a member of Colorama. Is this cool? Yeah. Hey, I'm a member of Colorama. Is this cool? And like, I would play that edge until you find the edge of that. But you can also give it back to them of saying like, hey, what do you need to promote? Right. Bring it back to the board because chances are this is a collective shadow. Yeah. Right. It's in the collective shadow. So because it's in the collective shadow, then the question is like, what can we process together so that this organization, because if we don't thrive, it doesn't thrive. Like we're the brain power behind this. So like, how do we all, maybe we need to rewrite some guidelines, some of our own ground rules. Maybe we do all need to actually sign these parts of the newsletter with our name and our face and our business. Like maybe we all need to actually up our game and enter the world that like, yeah, it was nice. Like back in the day when, the village practitioner was fed by the villagers and it doesn't happen like that anymore. Like we're in a commerce system. Yeah. Okay. Are you good? Do you feel like you've got your work cut out?
Yeah. There's a lot of clarity there, and I feel I've got trajectory, and I've got some clear action steps for how to make the most of it and make it great. And even I'm just thinking about like sending an email to our professional members asking everybody, hey, do you have a postcard you want to put in the bag? Cool. Like this is the Colorama conference. Yeah. You are Colorama. I'm always saying we are nothing without our members. Yeah. So, cool. Here we are.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Doing that. I love that. And then, really get to that 20 people, really sit in there, whatever the number is of people on your calendar after the event and reverse engineer the actions that you had to do for them to get on your calendar.
Yeah.
And don't assume anything. Like, don't assume any magic or fluff. Like, just assume that, like, it's actually really interesting. I was talking with this woman who's just crushing it in Club Hero right now and in Club Thrive. And I'm like, how did you find out about us? And she's like, oh, you did this podcast interview with, I think it was like the yoga show. It was the yoga show. And I was thinking back to how I got on that show. And it's like, I read the book by one of the authors. I reached out. I hosted her on my podcast. She reciprocated on her podcast. Yeah. One of her listeners. And like, there were so many very specific action steps that had a call to action for someone who was like, oh, that sounds like I want more, to be able to get more.
Yeah.
So think of that as like, okay, I'm going to create, and in Wellness Pro Academy, this is one simple funnel. It's lesson 4.2 or 4.1. Yeah. It's like, what is the one simple funnel? And then identify the hubs. 4.2. Who are the hubs at the conference that can promote you, that you can give a stack of the postcards to and be like, hey, do me a favor, hand 10 of these out to people that you know need this, right? And like, go through the actions of, for you, asking for help specifically, because the sense that you can't ask for help is really the core. So then if you're like, okay, it's my spiritual path to ask for help. So like, get your ass off the cushion and go ask for help.
Yeah. And I'm very blessed that there are tons of people who are specifically asking me to ask them for help.
Yes.
And so I there is abundance in that way.
Great. And then write your bio for, when you even introduce yourself, so that people know exactly who you serve and exactly how to get in touch with you if they want more, and exactly what they get. So it could be like, I have a free workbook, I have a sticker, I have a blah, 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 see me after if, right? And just practice. And this is the last thing I want to say on this. I learned this from Allie Brown, who's just helped so many entrepreneurs in your situation. She was working primarily with women. And she's like, just practice the pitch 7 times to practicing anything else you're going to say. So for you to practice those asks and practice those parts of the MC part where you're talking about yourself, and it's really, you're not talking about yourself as much as who you help and how they can take the next step. You practice that. And it's like literally in front of the bathroom mirror, standing on 2 feet, like Tadasana legs, Ujjayi breath, like get in your body and just look, through your 2 eyes with like the eyes of God, and just practice exactly how you want the energy of who you are to be received, who you are to be felt, and what the call to action to be internalized. And that's like, do that every single fucking day between now and this event. Like when you wake up, like just knock out a few early in the morning, knock out 1 or 2 before bed, and it'll happen then. Like the growth that you'll have between now and then will just be tremendous. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kate. It's really helpful. Thanks for talking through this with me, and super stoked to have you at the conference. Last weekend in September 29, 30, October 1st, and then Monday, October 2nd, we've got you at Archipelago Denver doing a whole day long workshop of Club Thrive, Wellness Pro Academy, all that goodness to help wellness pros double their income.
Yeah. Yay, Veda Dave. Thank you. Thanks for putting this together. And thanks for just, I just felt so invited. And I think all the speakers have just felt so invited. And I am personally really looking forward to becoming more trauma informed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yay. Thanks, Kate. Appreciate you.
You too.